Welcome back to our Saturday Anything Goes series. We're going to continue on today with using up our scraps of DSP. And going through my scraps, I realized I still had quite a bit of the Petal Promenade DSP left. And I thought, this is a good time to use some of that up. So we're going to make two cards today. The first, we're going to concentrate on a pink card, if you will, which goes perfectly with one of the photorealistic sheets that is in the Petal Promenade. This one has Blushing Bride. It has Mossy Meadow, just all kinds of beautiful, beautiful colors in it. And I need to make an encouragement card for a friend. So I thought that's what we would do today. In looking through, trying to find a great stamp set to use with this, I chose Petal Palette, which is out of our annual catalog. So both of the sentiments that we're going to be using for the cards today come from the first of the set in the Petal Palette stamps. And for the encouragement, life is so much better with you in it. Who wouldn't love to get a card from somebody saying that? All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. This is really a pretty simple card, but it has quite a few layers in it. And that's one of the reasons that I like it so much, is that the person who gets it is going to be wowed by it. So I've got my standard A2 card base, and this is cut 4 1/4 by 11, scored and folded at 5 1/2. And I chose the pink paper from the Petal Promenade for this one, as I mentioned. And let me just tell you what we're going to need here. I've got all my dimensions written down so I wouldn't forget, and we're going to make it together. So let me clear some space and bring out my trimmer. And I apologize if the camera shakes a little bit, but I want to make sure that I get this where you can see it. All right. We're basically going to end up with 3 layers. So triple the fun. Our card base acts as the first layer, and on top of that, we're going to put a piece of DSP, which is 4 inches by 5 1/4. So I took this scrap that I had, and it's already 4 inches, so yay for that, but I need to cut it down to 5 1/4. Always be careful if you have a directional pattern that you're cutting in the right direction. This one really didn't matter all that much. Okay, so there is our first layer. Then we're going to need to put a second layer on that. And because the DSP is so beautiful, I am going to leave more of the DSP showing than I normally do on a card. Normally my sentiment panel is the biggest other than the card base. I really like to have a lot of room for that. But here it's all about the DSP. We're only going to need a very small sentiment panel for this. All right, so my next layer, my cardstock mat, needs to be 4 3/8 by 3 1/8. All right, so I know this is already at least 3 1/8, so we'll cut this at 4 3/8. So 1, 2, 3. So there's that, and then I need to cut this down to 3 1/8. So right about there. So that is the mat for our second layer. And as you see, when I put it down on here, it leaves at least 1/2 inch on each side and top and bottom where that DSP can shine through. But guess what? We're going to go ahead and add another layer of DSP. I'm loving this. So our next layer of DSP needs to be 3 inches by 4 1/4. And that's a little too narrow, so we'll put that back in the scrap pile. This is going to be plenty big. So rather than cut that whole thing at the 3 1/8, I'm going to go with the 4 3/8. So 1, 2, 3. And then we can cut this down to the 3 1/8. I always like to leave as many of my scraps as large as possible. That's why you see me kind of cutting them down like that. So this goes on our mat. Oh, you know what? I cut that a little too big. So let me just double check here. Oh, that's it. I'm going by my cardstock instead of by my DSP. So this should actually be 3 inches. Just a little off by 4 1/4. That's what I get for talking and not looking. 4 1/4 is right there. Now it should fit. Okay, so that becomes our second layer. And as you can see, it's a very narrow mat, and I'm really letting the DSP talk in this one. Now for our last layer, that is our sentiment panel. And rather than pulling out Whisper White, as I was going through and looking at the DSP, when you flip over the photorealistic paper, you have this beautiful, almost a bokeh effect. And I thought it's light enough where we should be able to stamp on that with no problem. So that is actually going to be our sentiment panel. I'm not matting that because since I'm using Blushing Bride, it would just get lost. And because it is that Blushing Bride color, it serves as its own matte. Hello, Kathy. How are you? Nice to have you join me. I need to talk to you when we're done. Okay, that's it for trimming today on this card. Now we get to assemble it. So I'll pull away the sentiment panel and we're just going to glue all of these flat. So I'll bring out my multi-purpose liquid glue and not using too much. While it looks like I'm putting a lot on, it's a very, very thin layer. And then you always want to make sure which way your card opens up. Yeah, there we go. So you don't end up with an upside down card. I've done that a time or two. All right, so there's our first layer. And now I will straight glue down this to the mat for the second layer. Come on, don't run out yet. I am just squeezing this one dry. Been holding off placing an order because, as you all know, On Stage in Charlotte is today, and I'm going to get to see a lot of the new goodies. So I'm saving it for a big order when they come out with the product purchase premiere. Okay, now we could pop that panel up, and I think we'll do that. I really like it when we separate the panels by using dimensionals because you get kind of a shadow effect. So we'll put some on here. And I not only like to do the corners, but one in the center as well. Hi, Patricia. Hello, Sandy. Thank you, ladies, for joining. All right. These backings sometimes are a little finicky about coming off, but there we go. Now, because this paper is not directional, I can kind of flip it any direction I want, but I think I like it this way. So pardon my head if it gets in the way, but there we go. And I don't know if you can tell or not, but it gives a nice little shadow effect. Okay, let's work on our sentiment panel. For this, I'm using the sentiment, "Life is so much better with you in it." And not that one, is this one. And for ink, I kind of struggled with this because I thought blushing bright against the pink, probably not going to show up very well. I could use Mossy Meadow, but that is just so green and so dark that I really wanted my sentiment panel to keep that lightness. So I went to my old standby, which is Smoky Slate. And it is one of the colors that's listed as being a part of the DSP colors. All right, now I just need to make sure I get this right way up. This way, Linda. And I want to do it as centrally as possible because I'm going to show you a trick about embellishments for this card. So again, pardon my head if it gets in the way. Just want to make sure. Oh, good. As you can see, that gray is soft enough where it really works well against the blushing brides. All right. Now, I wanted to do embellishments. I want to do some floral designs at the top and the bottom. But you know what? I played around with it, and I took floral images from Petal Palette and from a couple of other different stamp sets. They really just didn't go well with the photorealistic paper. And so I was mulling around and thought, you know, I cut out a bunch of butterflies when we were all about the botanical butterfly paper, and that looked so nice. So I fussy cut some of the flowers that are actually in the DSP. And I really loved the way it looked. So this one's going to go like that. And then I've got one here at the bottom. And then just for giggles, I did cut out the sprig that is from, what's it from? First Frost. And in Old Olive. Or Pear Pizzazz. I can never remember. Those greens are so similar. Now, obviously, this branch is a little too big. But I thought, what if I used just little bits of it? So I had a little bit going there. And I really thought it looked great. So I'm just going to cut this down. And since it has so many branches here, it's very easy for me to get what I need out of this one branch. So I'll cut that section off, and I'll cut this section off. Probably just need that much of it. And maybe cut off this section. And that way I can kind of put them together. And I even have some more left for later. All right, so for this one, the flowers are really going to take up most of the room up here, but you will see just a little bit peeping through. And that's why I thought it would be nice to use this. So let me just see if I can come up with a little arrangement that works. Pull this in a little bit. This is always the fun of doing this. And I really like the way that looks. So I'm going to hold this up, and this is where I could get out the glue and glue it down, but those are tiny little stems. Instead, I'm going to bring in my glue dots because one glue dot will actually hold both of those stems together, and it will be hidden by the flower, so I don't have to worry about it showing through. All right, so I've got my glue dot with both of those on it. And now I'm going to arrange this, making sure that I'm not covering up my sentiment. And then I think I'll pop this one up. And one dimensional should do it for me. So I'm just going to put one right there. And that's going to go right in the spot where that glue dot is showing. And the reason I didn't put it on the other flowers right now is because it's only attaching to the sentiment panel. All right, so we have that. And then we're going to do one more down here. So let's see how I'm going to arrange that. Bring out my glue dots again. Another thing I'm going to have to order. Boy, I have been going through my adhesives this week. I made myself make at least one card every day this week. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Look at me there. Okay, and I don't think I'm going to pop that one up. I like the difference between it popped up there and not popped up there. So we'll just use another glue dot. You certainly could pop it up if that's your preference. And then I'll go in and just cut off any of this that's showing through. Making sure I don't cut the actual sentiment panel, which I just about did. So I like that one down there, peeking out, but we are definitely going to take that out. All right, and I'm fine with having a little bit of the green there. Now we're definitely going to pop this one up as well. Good thing I am hand delivering this, because if I were to mail it, I would probably have to pay extra postage. Although you certainly could make this card without popping anything up, and it would mail just fine with one stamp. Okay. Get the backings off this. I tell you, I just really, when I saw the flowers on the DSP, the white ones, I said, you know what, those would be easy to fussy cut. And they're perfect. They're just perfect. All right, so there we have our first card. And I think you'll agree, it is just so, so lovely. Yeah, Sandy, Petal Promenade has been one of my favorites as well. But like I said, I struggled with using embellishments because stamping the flowers that are in the matching stamp set, which is what, Beautiful Promenade, I just didn't think they went that well with photorealistic paper. Okay, so that's our first one out of the way, and oh my goodness, we've only used about 12 minutes. I did want to show you one more, because this other paper is phenomenal. And I think you will agree with me. Now, I've pre-cut all of the pieces just to make it go a little bit quicker. I'm using all the same measurements as far as mats and cardstock, with the exception of the card base. I decided I wanted this one to be a landscape card, so I took a piece of 5.5 by 8.5, scored it at 4 1/4, so it gives me this type of orientation. But I used this paper. Look at this paper. Those purples and that green. Oh, just gorgeous. All right, we're going to give this much the same treatment. Look at that. Isn't that marbled pretty? Almost hate to cover it up. Come on, glue. Don't fail me now. You just have to get through this. And again, if you have directional paper, you will want to make sure that you have it on going the right direction. All right, so that's our first one. I'll mat this. Let me make sure I didn't cut this too big. Nope, this is perfect. And as you can see, really cutting the panels of DSP and cardstock probably takes longer than just putting it together, because it goes together very nicely. All right, so let's see which way I want this one. I think I want this one to go this way, and I am going to pop it up as well. I even thought about making this a shaker card, but I didn't have shaker bits that would coordinate. Can't wait to see the new catalog, y'all. I've seen some sneak peeks of the new in colors, and they are beautiful. Okay. Come on. There we go. I've had so much fun going in and using up DSP scraps this week. It really stretches your imagination. Normally, I have a design for a card and then I choose the DSP, but this time, chose the DSP first. And again, for my sentiment strip, I'm using the back side of that paper. It just goes beautifully. And the sentiment that we're going to use on this one, and remember, I'm making this as a wedding card. Some things are just meant to be like the two of you together. I thought that was just beautiful. I am going to keep with using the purple on. Very pretty. Okay. So I'll ink it up, and oh, I had better get this right the first time. Sticking my tongue out. Oh, yay. All right. So there we go. And I really liked the fresh fig with this. Here I do have a mat to set this off. I mean, you could put it down just like that and it would be gorgeous. But here I felt like I could get away with using a mat since the mat is, the cardstock is such a different color. All right, so I will glue these together and then we'll talk embellishing. Because as a wedding card, it needs some embellishment. Oh, come on, you. I'm getting glue all over the place. So there we go. I will be popping this one up as well, but let's look at embellishments. Again, I went straight to the DSP and chose my flowers from there and cut them out, because let me show you what I talk about when I say I wasn't real crazy. I started with just using these as embellishments. But if I put them against that DSP, it's just such a glaring difference. So that's why I went ahead and I cut them out. Now here I didn't have to fussy cut. I will show you what I was able to do. I took the small die from First Frost, and I was able to, let me bring in some paper here so I can show you. I was able on these smaller flowers to just die cut them out, and it worked perfectly. So if you ever have photorealistic paper that you want to create your embellishments from, see if you have a die that will work with it. Saves you fussy cutting. Now, I certainly don't mind fussy cutting, so I was okay with it, but it can be a chore sometimes. So let's see, are we going to arrange these similar to what we did? I think we might. And then I cut the berry branch and thought I would use it, but I may actually not use it because I don't really have all that much room since this is a landscape. I might get away with it down here. I could do that. I think I might do that, but I think I'll use the light pink up here. Kind of mix it up a little bit. So let's go ahead and get these on there. Now I see from the die cut that there's a little bit of the green there, so I'm just going to trim that away. And we'll just do some bits. So I'll take that. Come on, cut. And then we might use this single one as well. We'll see. So I'll cut off this piece of it. All right. So I said I liked this going that way. It doesn't interfere with my sentiment. So let's see. Should I glue dot it? Of course I'm going to glue dot it. And be careful if you do glue dots on these very delicate die cuts, because you can accidentally rip them. Ask me how I know. Yes, I've done it a time or two. All right, I'm going to glue dot down this flower, I think. Right there. And then I think I'll glue this bottom one down and prop up the top one. So I just need glue right here, like that. And then a dimensional for this one. One should be plenty. And I just want to make sure I place it to where I'm not interfering with my sentiment. So there we have it. Now, do we want to pop that up? Of course we do. No question about it. Okay, so we go here. I better put one in the center there, just to make sure it doesn't sag. Oh, thank you, Sandy. It's easy to have beautiful cards when you have paper like this. All right, pardon my head if it gets in the way, but I want to try and line this up. And then if you wanted to, and of course we're going to, you need a little bit of sparkle. In comes the wink of Stella. And we'll just apply it wherever we like. Just gives it that nice little sparkle without being overpowering. You all probably can't even see it, but there, now you can see it a little bit, yeah. But there you have it. So that is our second card. We made 2 cards in less than 30 minutes. So I hope you will go digging through your DSP and just start creating cards, because once you get an idea, you can use it, as you see here, in different ways to express yourself. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining today. I'm glad you took time out of your busy weekend. I hope you're having lovely weather. And we'll go ahead and see you next Saturday when I may have some of the new product. Cross your fingers. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.